Narcissism is everywhere, isn't it? It's chasing likes on Instagram. It's that aunt who makes a scene every Christmas. It's that coworker who just won't leave you alone. You know exactly who I'm talking about. The funny thing is, you're not even looking for it, but somehow self-centered people have a way of inserting themselves into our lives, even when we don't invite them. Now, we've all dealt with toxic people, myself included, but let's be honest, some people are just selfish, but others are in a whole different league. Problem is, when we use this one word to describe everything from everyday selfishness to a pathological disorder, it doesn't really mean anything anymore. So you end up with reels upon reels of this emotionally charged anti-narcissist content, which might feel really good, but it doesn't really help you understand what it was you're dealing with, does it? That is exactly why on this video, I want to have a real talk with you about what narcissism actually means, not the TikTok version. Now I know what you're thinking, not another guru, right? I want to be really honest. I had to learn this the hard way. In 2016, I married a cultist. I then spent 3 years in a toxic relationship, and then the next 7 years trying to figure out what the hell happened to me. I've been studying and recovering from narcissistic abuse ever since. So now I'm pretty confident that by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what narcissism is, why they do what they do, and more importantly, how their personality has affected you so you don't feel so broken. Most people are tempted to say that narcissism is all about one trait, selfishness. There's actually 9. The biggest mistake that people who have been through narcissistic abuse make is thinking that narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder are the same thing. They're not. So first we have to separate the buzzwords from the truth. Dr. Romani put it quite well. She says, narcissism is just a pattern of behavior. Narcissistic personality disorder, though, is a personality disorder. So if you Google narcissistic personality disorder, you'll come across the checklist that the professionals use to diagnose it. 9 traits that anyone can have, but when they dominate your personality, that's when it becomes a disorder. In other words, if someone has these traits, they're narcissistic. If somebody is these traits, then we're getting into NPD territory. And if you want to understand both, you've got to know what the traits are. We've all heard that narcissists are full of themselves, right? It's more than that, though. It's someone who needs to believe that they are the most amazing, most wonderful, most perfect person in the world. And they'll do whatever it takes to protect that belief. This is called grandiosity. They're not just great, they're the best. Trait number 2 is called fantasy. Now, you know that kid who always used to say, when I grow up, I'm going to be a king, I'm going to be a queen. Now, for most of us, we grow out of this, but for narcissists, they don't. When they're a kid, something happens that freezes them in this childlike survival state. So when they grow up, they continue to fantasize about power, success, brilliance, the perfect life, the perfect love. They live in this dreamland that they are at the center of. And it's not just good enough that they believe it. They need the outside world to confirm it. They need you to confirm it. They crave validation. They need attention like we need air. The third key trait of narcissism is that they are desperate for attention, validation, reassurance, adulation, applause, anything that tells them you are significant. But the second they don't get that, when people stop clapping and praising them, that's when the mask starts to slip. And you've probably seen that, right? The irritation, passive-aggressive comments, the sudden coldness. This lack of empathy comes out because underneath all of that confidence is a scared little kid who needs to believe that they're perfect to feel safe. But it doesn't just stop there. They genuinely believe they're special. And if they're not surrounded by special people, the best brands, the top tier lifestyle, then they quickly feel like something's wrong. That's where entitlement comes in. See, not only do they believe that they're special, they also believe that they deserve special treatment, even if they've done nothing to deserve it. It could be anything from skipping a line, to getting VIP treatment in a restaurant, to demanding that you trust them, even if they haven't earned it yet. They take and never give back. And if you ever wonder, how can they just use people like that? Well, that's the next trait. It's called interpersonal exploitation. It's a fancy way of saying they use their relationships to get what they want. People aren't people to a narcissist. They're objects. Relationships, they're transactions. So if you can help them, you're valuable. If you can't, then you're irrelevant. And that is why empathy, like real, heartfelt empathy, isn't really possible for them. It doesn't really exist. It's not that they won't care, it's that they can't. They're so locked inside their own self-image that your feelings don't even register on the radar. Now, because they see themselves as so special, narcissists also live in this weird mix of envy and paranoia. On one hand, they're looking at everyone else, their possessions, their achievements, and they're jealous of anything that they feel entitled to. And on the other hand, they'll convince themselves that everyone else is jealous of them. And no, you're not going crazy. Yes, this happened, and yes, it is delusional. But in their mind, this flip-flopping just keeps the story going. So yeah, they might come across as charming and confident and successful, but underneath, it's all just arrogance covering up insecurity. And the biggest giveaway of it all, they can't take criticism, because criticism shatters the illusion that they are amazing and wonderful and perfect. And when the illusion breaks, well, they melt down like a nuclear reactor. Now the thing is, these are just behaviors. They're behaviors that anyone can do. And the thing about behaviors is that they are all surface level. NPD is a break in their personality, not the behavior. NPD isn't just what they do, it's a break in who they are. So we have to go deeper. If you read anything about neurolinguistic programming, there are different levels in our minds. Actions are on the surface. These are all of the things that we do. Then underneath, we have the narrative that drives those actions. These are the stories that we tell ourselves, what we think and what we feel. And everything comes from this point here in the center. That's who we are. Our identity is how we see ourselves. Everything comes from this center point. Narcissists don't really have a real sense of who they are. So everything they do is an act. It's a mask. It's a pretend. The narrative that drives their actions, it's a fairy tale. Because at the center, they're not much of a person. They're a persona, a mask. Now, it took me so long to actually wrap my head around this, if I'm being completely honest. I must have watched like 200 hours of Richard Grannon's videos to truly get it. Now, the way I see it, it's like this. Their identity is kind of split in two. Imagine you're on a road trip with your friends and you're there and you're programming the GPS. Now, if you're going to tell the GPS to go left, it'll take you left. If you tell it to go right, it's going to take you right. But what if you told the GPS to go both left and right at the same time? This is sort of like what happens to a narcissist when they're kids. See, not only are they told that they're amazing and wonderful and perfect, they're also told that they are awful and worthless and can't do anything right. And so their mind breaks. Their mind goes in two different directions the same way the GPS does. So all the stories, the narrative, the thoughts, the feelings, and all of the actions that flow from their identity, they're all affected. That's what makes them do all these 9 things on autopilot. They essentially turn their relationships, their closest, most intimate relationships, into emotional outsourcing programs. It's not love, it's love support. That is where things start to break down, because it's when you stop being a partner and you start to become a target. I heard this quote recently. You don't judge a captain by his uniform, you judge him by his crew. Now, it got me thinking, right? Because most people are only going to see the narcissist's mask, this charade that they put on for people. But if you really want to spot a narcissist, the real giveaway is not in what they're doing. It's on the effect they have on the people closest to them. I've got a bit of a personal story here. See, at the end of my last relationship, I remember breaking down on the stairwell of our home, and I phoned my sister. 3 years of pressure was just flooding down the phone to her. She saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time. It was only when I started to speak to other people that had had a similar experience did I see what we all had in common. Every single one of us used the phrase walking on eggshells. And it's because we'd learned in the relationship to be constantly on the lookout for danger. Not just physical, but freakouts. Are they in a good mood? Are they in a bad mood? Are they going to freak out? Are they going to like this? Are they going to hate this? Do they want me to do that? Do they want me to do this? We all doubted our own judgment. I didn't trust myself to be able to take the right action because most of the time I didn't really know what the right action was. A sense of inadequacy or worthlessness. And looking back now, I tried so hard to be the perfect husband. Now I realize there's no such thing as a perfect husband. But then when we try, of course, you can never actually get there. And so you make a lot of mistakes, and usually with those mistakes come punishments. We all feared making mistakes. And you have to do this the whole time. It's exhausting. There's so much mental and physical strain that comes along with these relationships. Because you got to keep up the appearance that everything's going well, that everything's hunky-dory, that everyone on the outside has to see the perfect couple, the perfect family, the perfect team at work. And like, you tried fighting it, you tried to change it, and nothing worked. So we all end up feeling pretty hopeless about our ability to change anything. We may like wish for a better life, but most of us just given up on that. And you go, oh, well, this is my life now. So at the end of a narcissistic relationship, nothing feels vibrant or alive. Everything is grey. You feel empty. You feel numb. Some people say they feel hollow, as if the relationship has consumed them in some way. Every little bit about who you are when you're close to a narcissist is stolen. It's sucked out of you to support who they are. Instead of having a self, narcissists have an absence of a self, a vacuum. So their closest relationships are just fuel for that vacuum. If you're on the outside and you're looking at this seemingly perfect family, or this power couple, or this super team at work, you can't just look at how great the leader is. You got to look at how he's affecting the people around him. Is he really getting the best out of them? Or are they terrified to mess up? They're taking the fall for everything. They're allowed to make mistakes. Is it a vibrant, colourful, lively boat? Or is it a ghost ship? So if this is you, maybe it's your partner, your boss, maybe someone inside your family, and you're wondering what the next steps are to start recovering from toxic relationships, that is exactly why I created this YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do so. If you liked this video, we found it helpful, please do give it a thumbs up and drop any questions or comments you guys have in the chat below as well. I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I hope to speak to you all again real soon.